India began its two-year term as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council on January 1. Though this is the 8th time that we are getting on to this all-important decision-making body of the UN, this is coming in a certain context. A, the global pandemic and the world leadership dealing with it, and B, the fact that it would coincide with India's Diamond Jubilee celebrations. To discuss the importance of this event for the nation, with us, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti. Welcome, sir. What were your thoughts when you were going to install that tricolor in your hands on that day, and then you made that speech? Just explain to us the emotions for the country to benefit from.
Firstly, let me thank you, Abhishek, for having me in your program. I would like to wish you and all your viewers a very, very happy New Year. It was indeed a matter of great honor to install the Indian flag as the permanent representative of India. As I mentioned in my remarks soon after the event, it was a moment of great pride and humility for me and my team in the permanent mission. I thank our leadership for the trust which they have placed in me. We are entering the Security Council for the 8th time, as you know, and after being elected with an overwhelming mandate from all the member states. So the eyes of the world are upon us, and we will work earnestly to live up to the expectations.
Right. Sir, so let's cut the chase. You know, at the 75th UNGA session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, and I quote, "India has been waiting for a long time for the completion of the reforms of the United Nations. Today, people of India are concerned whether this reform process will ever reach its logical conclusion." You know, we might have become this member of the United Nations Security Council for the 8th time, but what is important is that a great mass of humanity remains unrepresented. Also, we have seen how on very important issues like the difficulty we face, for example, in getting Maulana Masood Azhar declared a global terrorist, the body does not represent the sentiments of a great part of the world. So in that sense, where do you see India's role and contribution in these crucial 2 years in terms of UN reforms?
You're right, Abhishek. You know, the Prime Minister was very clear in the message that he conveyed during the UN General Assembly. The UN has been in existence for over 75 years. The Security Council, unfortunately, is still stuck in 1945, and it does not reflect the significant changes that have taken place since then. Now, while the world has become more multipolar, this reality is not reflected in the Security Council. It is also truly unfortunate that while the overwhelming majority of the UN member states, they firmly support comprehensive reforms in the Security Council, a handful of status quoists have consistently opposed any reform and not letting the process go or move forward. So a reform of the Security Council is critical, as you have said, for making this organ more representative, legitimate, and effective. The world has waited for 75 long years, and it cannot wait anymore. And we have called for immediate and time-based and time-bound text-based negotiations. Of course, the reform of the Security Council is not driven by the Security Council per se, but initially it's through the so-called intergovernmental negotiating process under the General Assembly. India's credentials are, of course, known to all. However, in our 2 years in the Council, this will be one more opportunity to demonstrate to the global community how important it is for the Security Council to be more representative and reflective of the contemporary realities.
Right. I hope it happens, sir, but don't stop me from asking this follow-up question. You know, I mentioned about Maulana Masood Azhar. When you were speaking after taking charge on the first day of the installation ceremony, said, and I quote, that India will be a voice for the developed world and against the common enemies of humanity like terrorism, unquote. Now, sir, you think that in the 2 years that we are on this very important decision-making body at the United Nations, we could push something like a comprehensive convention on international terrorism, something which has been pending for almost 3 decades now?
See, you are aware of our very firm and very forceful voice against terrorism. And therefore, this focus will continue. And I'm convinced that we will be taking this up in the context not just of our 2 years in the Security Council, but also in the context of the various processes which are going on, particularly on the CCIT, which you just mentioned. So we are determined to see how best we can push this. This is a priority for us when we enter the Security Council, which is combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations.
We have really seen how in our territory, China has intervened in a manner which impinges on our sovereignty. They've done that in other geographies as well, but we are concerned about ours. You think India's membership of the UNSC at this crucial juncture helps us in some way countering Chinese moves in Ladakh?
See, it's like this, that of course, on the UNSC reforms I've just mentioned to you, but on China, let me say that our position is very clear, that bilateral issues are best handled bilaterally. Using multilateral forum for what is essentially a bilateral issue is not what we are looking at. And as far as India is concerned, I can assure you that we have a forward-looking agenda. And our approach in the UN Security Council will be to work constructively with all members with whom we have a shared interest in advancing the cause of international peace and security. That's what I'd like to mention at this point of time.
Understood. So that takes me to the next question then. You have clarified on this. On the crucial issue of terrorism, which you partly addressed, but, terrorism is not a bilateral issue. So in that context, are we in a position to do something more with the virtue of having become member of the UNSC?
Actually, you're absolutely right, Abhishek. Counterterrorism is a major priority area for India, as I've just mentioned. And we are committed to combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestation with zero tolerance. In fact, you will be happy to know that the Security Council has just agreed that India will chair the Counterterrorism Committee in 2022. This is a subsidiary body of the Security Council. It has a special resonance for us, given that it will also coincide with the 75th anniversary of India's independence. And we have also been asked to chair the Taliban Sanctions Committee, which is also a terrorism-related committee. We will, of course, firmly resist the growing attempts by member states to classify terrorism into various types and forms, thereby diluting the global focus and fight against terror. We would be supportive of any resolutions in the Security Council that could address this objective. And as regards Pakistan, it is very clear that the biggest threat to India is cross-border terrorism sponsored from across our borders. Of course, terrorists nurtured by Pakistan are not just a threat to India, but to the region. This also explains why the largest number of terrorists proscribed by the UN are hosted by Pakistan. However, it is also clear that despite being sanctioned by the most important multilateral body, these terrorists continue to operate with impunity inside the territories controlled by Pakistan. This dilutes the very fight against terrorism. It is important that those who refuse to implement these decisions are held accountable.
It's fantastic, sir, that you did some naming and shaming and are in a position now, by the virtue of being member of the UNSC, to really hold Pakistan to account. Hopefully, these efforts in these two important bodies that India has become member would yield some results. That takes me to my next question, which is very important in the kind of times we are living in, and that is the COVID pandemic and the rollout of vaccines. We have seen how from the beginning, be it the issue of hydrochloroquine or the issue of sharing other stuff, the PPE kits and all with the global community, India has shown a certain leadership in taking care of humanity in these troubled times. You think this rollout of vaccines, given the fact that we are the vaccine capital of the world, so to say, have you been approached by some nations in terms of support? And if yes, what kind of support the world is expecting from India, sir?
No, I can say that there is very high hope from the world, especially from developing countries, on what India can deliver. The UN system is fully aware of India's vaccine manufacturing capabilities and India's indigenously developed vaccines. Till yesterday, vaccine availability was the prime focus. But today, it's the ease of preserving it, affordability, the ability to deliver it to the remotest corners of the world. And it is here that the Indian vaccine manufacturers can make a huge difference. Honorable Minister Mr. Harshvardhan has been nominated as the member of the board of the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi, as you know. Gavi essentially helps improve access to new vaccines for people who live in one of the poorest countries of the world. And the Honorable Prime Minister has also announced during the UN General Assembly debate that we will ensure that vaccines manufactured in India will be made available for all humanity. And this message has been positively received all over the world.
But we are expecting how many nations to get that support from India, sir?
No, at this point, we are looking, of course, at sharing it. We have already pledged, as you know, to Gavi. And we are also looking at many developing countries who have asked us. But I think the exact number of countries, that will be a decision which will be taken by the government of India. And we will definitely live up to the pledge which the Honorable Prime Minister has made.
Right, sir. So my connected question, but second last question on this interview of yours, sir. It's connected with COVID issue. We are helming a body which is looking into the origins and the spread of COVID coronavirus. What direction we are taking in that investigation? Is it moving in the right direction? And are we in a position to say that very soon we would be holding the nation or the place to account from where it originated?
See, let me put it this way. The WHO is not handled by the Permanent Mission of India in New York. It is being handled by Delhi and our permanent mission in Geneva. I think they'll be in a better position to answer that question.
All right. I'll take that question to them. But then now, finally, what is the roadmap for us over the next 2 years so that the world is a better place to live?
No, I'm happy you asked me that question because, we are entering the Security Council with certain priorities, which we have set for ourselves. The most important priority, you have already mentioned, that is about terrorism and combating terrorism. The second one is on peacekeeping, where we have a huge stake. The type of sacrifices which our peacemakers and peacekeepers have done. And we are hoping that we'll be able to further the peacekeeping part of the agenda of the United Nations. And connected to this is peace building. And in peace building, once again, it's become extremely important because we have to go to the next stage after peacekeeping. And that's somewhere we feel we can make a huge contribution. And in that, we will be focusing on women and youth in conflict situations. And that will be an important focus for us. We will also be looking at reformed multilateralism. And this is something which the Honorable Prime Minister has articulated on several occasions. The need for reform. I mentioned to you about how we will go about the reforming of the Security Council and what we are looking at. And finally, we will also be looking at technology with a human face. The tremendous progress which we have done in technology to bring it to the people for the welfare of the people of India. And we hope that we can take this successes which we have achieved in India, we can take it outside and see how it can contribute finally to development. As you know, we have a huge development agenda. Our development partnership is increasing by the day. And we hope that we can use this technology to promote development and also in the context of peace building. So we have a fairly ambitious agenda and we are determined to see whether in the next 2 years we can achieve the targets which we have set for ourselves.
Right. So be it vaccines, be it terrorism, peacekeeping, peace building, science and technology, essentially global advancement. What we are going to see is the India way over the next 2 years as India becomes and goes into being the member of United Nations Security Council. Thank you so much, Ambassador Tirumurti, for talking to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.